next speaker is actually my sponsor, along with my brother-in-law, Jed Knight. And Charley Patterson has put in, literally probably hundreds of man-hours into this event. And he's the one that organized basically the whole thing, lined up the speakers. He did an amazing job, kind of took charge of it, and an amazing leader and a great friend as well.
Charley has been a team lead for 8 years, was a professional wakeboarder for 10 years. And as Derek said, you can't even imagine the work that goes into putting this together. And earlier today, we heard about passing the baton. And the really interesting thing about Charley is not only was the baton passed to him, but he was willing to grab that baton and run with it. And I am so grateful for Charley for really taking the lead on this Success Summit, because I think this is just the beginning of some really big things and the beginning of some huge growth in our organization. So I think we owe a lot to Charley. So if there's anything that we can do for him is stand up, stand on the chairs, celebrate. Let's bring him on stage.
Charley Patterson.
Incredible 3 days. I was thinking about, what really has made it that incredible? Getting all this feedback and what an incredible event from every which way that I look at it. And I thought, what really made it as amazing as it is you. Is you being here. Because without you here, it wouldn't have happened. Without you here, your team wouldn't be here. And so I believe that you need to thank yourself for all the countless sacrifices that you've made, the decisions that you made to be here, because you didn't have to. Or maybe you did. And these events are going to continue as we have the February coming up. And we've heard from all the speakers that they have the blue dot on and they've already registered. And we know that you're going to do the same, and the event will sell out like we've been experiencing all those LTOs and everything that's been happening with all this momentum. And that's really a common thing that we're going to see. But for those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name's Charley Patterson, and I've been with Nu Skin for almost 10 years. February 1st, 2014 will be my 10-year anniversary. And thank you. My journey actually started back in Oregon. I dropped out of school back in 1994 to go pursue my dream. My dream was to become a professional wakeboarder. And I remember when I said that I wanted to do that, and everyone in my life, my coach, my family, my teachers, my friends, all told me that I was crazy. And they said, how are you going to become professional at something that doesn't even exist? And I had one person that believed in me, and that was my dad. And he said, Charley, you have to go do this and follow your dreams. You are going to have to pay for it yourself. And I moved out to Florida, and it was tough. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I was so scared. I didn't know anybody out there. I moved into an unknown town. I'd never been to Florida. Found myself in a group of professional athletes who were the best at wakeboarding. A very small group. I got out there in the community, and I thought that the sport had already happened, and it hadn't. It was just emerging. It was just beginning. And then I was even more scared because I knew that brought responsibility on me. And I wanted to go home. I literally found myself crying at night because I just didn't like it. The resistance and the pressure was so great. And I'd call home, and my dad would tell me that I'd never quit anything. I'd never quit anything in my life, and so why would I start now? Nine months into that journey, I competed at the World Championships, my first, and it ended up placing 11th in the world. Maybe we need some more translation on that. I didn't wakeboard, and then I moved to Florida. 9 months later, I finished 11th in the world. Whoa, man! I don't care. Maybe we need the "what team are we on" speech. I don't know. Again. Thank you. Now, many of you guys know that joke. There are only 12 wakeboarders in the world. Okay. So it was very humble beginnings, and I was making $200 a month, and I made a promise that I would go back to school and finish my degree and become a doctor if I didn't become professional. But I finished 11th in the world in the pros, and I was making $200 a month, so I made my commitment, right? And so I didn't go back to school. Now, I didn't tell anybody how much I was making, right? Because what would you have said? Wouldn't you have told me, Charlie, you need to go back to school and become a doctor? And so I stayed true to that vision, and within a couple years, those same people that thought I was crazy, the very same people that thought I was crazy, that told me I was crazy, were not only wakeboarding, they were riding a wakeboard with my name on it. And my father taught me that I just had to never quit. That if I stayed true and I just continued to invest in myself and learn those fundamentals and do what had to be done to actually invest and learn those skills, that I would become the 5%. The 5% that don't quit anything that they do. And that's all that happened. I wasn't the best. I was never the champion. I was never world champion. I was one of the top money makers because I just never quit. It's all I knew I had to do. That ultimately I would continue long enough and repeat that and crash enough times that ultimately I would not crash. And then I would do it so many times more that I would master it, and then I'd be able to teach others. And so the same's true with our business, isn't it? We go through the exact same thing in our business. Is that we get told we're crazy, and then we're not. Or we find other people that are crazy like us, or one of the two. So, why are we here? Big question. And I really believe in System 7. I have been a believer since I was first exposed to it, thanks to Kenton and his team in Eastern Europe, and seeing our team plug into their events and the system and participate and attend these events. And I saw the why emerge as we saw last night and yesterday, understanding the core habits. And so coming back off of our team lead trip here in Hawaii this year, that we as One Team Global got together. The leadership is driving the bus. And we said we had to focus on why we're doing this. And if we know why we are, then what we have to do will present itself. And that's the system. We have the system. We don't have to reinvent it. It exists. And then we ultimately will figure out how to implement it individually, how we can plug it into our lives. And there's endless ways that the common denominator of us can use the system to create success. Right? That you saw how many countless individuals come across the stage this week that you may have identified one or two, maybe a few of them, but we're all unique. There's not two of us that are identical, but we can grab bits and pieces from each. And so we set a context of an aligned global system that would allow our team, Team New Skin, to plug in around the world, that you could be consistent, you could find the way based on the system to have a global business, because we'd be consistent in the markets where leaders like us would take that responsibility and step into that place. Why? Because of this. To have confidence, to ultimately create duplication with the system that allows us to simplify things for consistency, to create leverage, that we know it's proven and it becomes measurable. That ultimately we can track, we can take ownership of that business because of the system with the standardization based on the teamwork principles that we heard from Kenton. And what happens with this and the use of the impending events is it allows us to create that confidence that ultimately leads to trust because it's predictable. We know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but ultimately why we do it. Nathan spoke about the success trips and many that have already qualified for the next success trip just off the LTO here. We know that every 6 months we have that. It's predictable. We're going to have massive executive creation based on just preparing for the LTO and to qualify for the success trip. Then we get the reward with the LTO. It's predictable, it's reliable, and that gives us the trust and the confidence that we can actually execute. And we can have the posture that we can sit in front of the people that scare the heck out of us, right? That we can sit in front of them because we know where we're going. With or without them. With or without them. You have to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, you will go nowhere. Show me someone that's stagnant. Show me someone that's stuck. And I'll show you someone that doesn't have a goal. That there's no plan to make based off that goal. And there's no action that has purpose and direction. Like going from your point A, which is right here today. Right here today, we're sitting in our point A, aren't we? And our point B, we can just set it right there for the end of March in preparation. Or maybe some of you will say, you know what, 5 days is a good point B for me. I'm going to work to the end of the month and finish out phase 3. So then we can step into phase 1 like we heard just from Nathan. Now, I've had some blind spots in my life that have been shown to me by some incredible people, many that are in this room. And yesterday, and several days actually this week, we heard from one of our founders, Sandy Tillotson. How was Sandy? I could see what she's created, the vision that she had. And about 6 years ago, I found myself in this repetitive cycle. This cycle that just kept repeating for 6 years, where I was in a relationship that we'd get together, we'd break up. We'd get together, we'd break up. We'd get together, we'd break up. And on the Team Elite trip in Fiji, Sandy and I were on some excursion on the bus, and I happened to be able to sit next to Sandy, and we were talking, and we started talking about relationships. And she asked me, she said, Charlie, have you ever set a goal around your relationship? Because you seem to be in this stuck place. And I said, well, no, I never said a goal. She said, you set a goal around business. You set a goal around sports. You set around, goals on anything. Your relationship, the love of your life is the same thing, and you're stuck. So clearly you don't have a goal. So we sat down, and we put pen to paper. And she sat there with me for hours and asked me, what is she like? What does she look like? What does she want in her life? What are her spiritual beliefs? What's her character like? And she kept asking me more questions until I felt like there was nothing else to say, and then my cup was just empty. Then she just asked me more questions, and we'd write down some more information. And I said, I feel like there's getting so much information on this paper that I'm like limiting out like the whole world, right? There's like, how could anyone be everything that's on this piece of paper? Like that feels impossible. I remember voicing that to her, like saying like, man, I feel like doing this exercise is like jinxing me. It's like eliminating the possibility of it even happening. And then she asked me the toughest question I've ever been asked in my life. She said, Charlie, are you this list? And I said, I'm not. I'm some of those things. I'm not all of them. She said, when you grow to become this list, when you are this list, you will attract that woman into your life because like attracts like. And so, because I set a goal with this, I had a plan, right? I had something to look at that okay, this is my plan. I have to grow to become this list. 2 years later, after literally just like investing not only in the business, but in Israel, right after I had that meeting with Sandy, I'm sitting with Nathan Ricks, Dan McCormick, and Ron Wardrop. And I asked them, okay, I'm a team elite, but how do I get to become a team elite like you? And they said, Charlie, you have to invest in yourself as much as you invest in your business. And I'll never forget those words, ever. 3 of us in a circle, or 4 of us in a circle. And so for 2 years, I worked on myself at the same time working the business. And I reached a point where I was 35, and I remembered, like, oh my gosh, when I was 17, I remember saying that I was going to find the love of my life at 35 years old. At the point that I was financially free, that I would have that stability and security, that I could really start to invest in a family. And all of a sudden, I'm 35, and I go, oh my gosh, it's time. I've got to set the goal. And I'm looking at the list, and I'm like, I am these things. And I entered into a goal-setting program, okay? I'm like, okay, it's time to take action. I have to now move into finding this woman. And so I actually hired some coaches. I had like 5 coaches. And I set a goal to meet my wife in 90 days. Is that ridiculous? That's so ridiculous. Thank you very much. So I set a goal. Okay, now it's time. I've got my paper. I'm going to meet my wife in 90 days. And this is like saying, okay, I'm moving to Florida. I'm going to become a pro wakeboarder, right? Except even more ridiculous. So just things can progressively, one of my leaders I know that's in the room, Stephen Roddy, new Ruby that went across the stage last night. He sent me this this logo, this picture, and it said, and pardon my language here, but this is what it said. It said, God only gives me what I can handle, and apparently he thinks I'm a badass. Because about 90 days into this, my coaches said, Charlie, are you up for a challenge? And this was common on a daily experience, and I said, sure, what's the challenge? They said, we challenge you to meet your wife in 24 hours. And after the nausea settled, and I came to started to breathe again, and I think, there started to be light gather in the room, and it got really narrow for a little while. I realized, okay, this is the same as everything else in my life. I accepted the challenge blindly. I have to have faith. Because and be committed that if I move forward and I am committed, then providence will move too. And all sorts of unforeseen events, circumstances, people will come my way in support of what I'm committed to. So I have to commit. And I just have to have faith. I have to believe that in 24 hours, this woman is going to appear in my life. So about 12 hours later, I find myself walking onto a plane, Delta Flight 1472. And I'm flying from San Francisco to LA, and then I get on a flight from LA to Orlando, and it's a red eye. And I'm walking on the plane, and I'm having this experience. I feel like I'm almost floating because I've just surrendered to this. And I walk on the plane, and I look left, and there's first class. First class was full, and I was so happy that I just kind of looked at first class, waved it, and I turned right and went back to coach. And if you know what I mean, it's better to have never gone to first class, right? Than have to look at it and know what it is and then go back. But I come back and I find myself, and here I am, here's my seat in the exit row. I'm sitting here over here in the row, and I'm just getting comfortable. You know, I'm accepting, like, okay, I got about 12 hours left in this goal. I'm going to land in like 5 hours. So that gives me 7 hours to, like, you know, I mean, to meet her. Right? And I'm thinking, surrender, keep telling myself, surrender. And then, all of a sudden, a flight attendant starts to approach me.
Hello, Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
How are you this evening?
I'm doing great.
You look great.
Thank you.
We have an open seat in first class, and your name is all over it.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Would you like to accept your
I would love to.
upgrade this evening?
I would love to. Thank you very
follow
much.
me. I'll take you to your seat.
Okay.
Charley Patterson, Christy Hemme, please come to the front.
Thank you so much.
Charley Patterson, Christy Hemme, please come to the front.
I love it when they move you to first class and the seat opens up.
Charley Patterson, Christy Hemme, please come to the front.
Okay, so I got 5 hours left. Yeah.
Christy Hemme, please come to the front.
I don't know if they're going to ask me for some water or something. Oh. I'm so confused. Oh my gosh. Oh, miss, can I help you?
No.
Oh.
I got it. I'm strong. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Whoa, okay. Whew. All right. Well, I'm in 3B and you're in 3A. Seriously, I've never been sat next to someone beautiful, ever. And I'm looking at this woman. She's an angel, and I'm just there's no way this could be happening. There's no way, right? There's no way. There's no way that this would happen, that I would make a commitment like that I would meet my wife. Could this be her? Hi. Okay, that's not what happened. Okay, I'm waiting myself. We're a little off story. So I sit down. Actually, before I sit down and I start asking this beautiful young lady, you know, who she is, what she does, and for the next 5 hours.
I have to stop you.
Oh no.
I didn't look at him until he sat down. Right when he sat down, I looked at him and I was like, my God, I've been waiting for you my whole life. It's my husband. I knew. Get that one out of the way.
So we had a red-eye flight. We had incredibly big talk for 5 hours. And that was on July 14th, 2008. And the signs that happened for the next year and a half were like God was slapping me in the face and saying, pay attention. Because she was everything on the list. Everything. Intimidating. Challenging. Supportive. Loving.